the train expert amongst us, and he's going to open my eyes and your eyes, hopefully, to the history.
The line here was also used for diversionary trains from Birkenhead up in Merseyside down to London Paddington. And then there's a bit of a dispute of whether any football specials also came through here as well. The line was also used for diversionary, as a diversionary route. So if there was any blockage on the Great Western Main Line in particular, this route could be an alternative route from the north down to London Paddington, for example. Very similar into the way that the line, the newly redoubled line up to Bicester Village, has been used recently for a very similar, any diversionary trains due to engineering work. Later on there was also a route built from Princess Risborough up to Bicester, connecting to the line between Oxford and Banbury. This really spelt the end of this particular part of the old Wycombe railway line. However, if the upgrade had happened, then it would have probably been rebuilt between Tame and Kennington Junction via Garsington and Sanford. The old plan before Brunel died, it wanted to go that way because it would avoid the steep gradients around Wheatley and the tunnel, because there's some particularly steep gradients the other side of the tunnel here. Some of the working expectation was carried out for this.
But what I've actually heard, William, is the reason that it was brought through Wheatley Horsepath to Oxford, which wasn't Brunel's original idea, was because I don't know what his name was, but there was a vicar over in Wheatley that wanted to make Wheatley a bit more civilised by bringing the trains through, and he campaigned for it to be brought this way. Even though it wasn't the easiest way, it was down to the Wheatley vicar. So, people could put pressure on even in those days. If it would have done that last bit to Garsington and over to the Kennington Junction, would it really have made much difference, do you think?
It probably wouldn't have made much difference. The topography of the land there would have presented this very similar challenges. It might have been a bit shallower as far as the gradient is concerned, but there still would have been similar challenges. I was also just thinking about the story you said about the vicar there wanting the railway to come here. 176 years ago now, or I think it was a bit earlier than that, the Duke of Wellington, who was the Chancellor at the university, did not want the railway to come to Oxford because he thought it might give the undergraduates a bit too much easy access to the bright lights of London and all the distractions that they would have had there. So it's interesting to see where somebody would want the railway to come, but it was a really divided opinion in so many ways.
It still does.
It still does, yeah. And people still refer to the railways as British Railway, which I always find quite interesting. And
a friend of mine, Mike Jennings, who is a businessman in Oxford, he remembers his father picking up young chickens at Wheatley Station for their poultry business in Garsington. So even though it was brought this way, it's had a big social impact. That poultry farming, you think, it's a rural thing, but it helped move things around when the trains came.
I was also going to say that my mum remembers taking a train on a school excursion along this line as well. She remembers it because she went over what is known as the Black Bridge, which is a metal girder bridge which goes over the Thames right down the far end of the line here. But she remembers that as well, so it's within memory, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of locals in Horsepath have got memories of walking through this tunnel and all sorts, But I have to say, the accuracy has been very difficult to get the facts on, because a lot of people, they say, I heard this, I heard that. That's not fact. So a lot of this, what we think are facts, may be incorrect. So we're only going to make claims on what we can substantiate. But a good example of how we have to be careful as programme makers, this tunnel, it was said to me a few months ago that this tunnel would never be opened because there's a big bulge, because where the water's building up, there's a big bulge. And when I questioned this person about that, which, they knew a lot of the history, they said, there was a report done in 1966 saying the tunnel has to be closed because there's a big bulge. And I said, have you seen that report? And they said, no, I've not seen the report. So I question whether that report, one, is it real? Or two, they wanted to close a lot of railway lines in those days. Was that report fabricated, And I said to that person, when was the last time you walked through the tunnel? And they said 1971. So I then asked somebody who was working in this tunnel for the bats for up until the early 2000s, and he had never seen a bulge. So we have to be very careful when we're making claims on these films for historical accuracy. There's a lot of hearsay, there's folklore. Nobody's lying about the facts, but it's just, you know, even if it's written in a book, we can't necessarily say, well, that's got to be true then.
I was going to say, yeah, stories are passed on from generation to generation, and stories will, even if they were originally, they might have been true, they obviously change over the years as well, don't they? So,
yeah, it's like a big Chinese whisper.
in a way, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So we'll be back with you with more episodes of this. We had a crowdfunding campaign earlier in the year to do the whole set of shows. We weren't successful with that, but what we're hoping to do now is to go to the corporate world and get funding from the corporates to do the next episodes. But what would you hope we achieve through this whole series of films about the Wycombe Railway and how nature is reclaiming it?
On a basic level, I mean, just this area here is a lovely place to come down to and just experience nature itself. It's such a, how it's been reclaimed and how it's been managed here. It's getting people back out into nature, really. If you live in Horsepath itself or you live in Oxford, just come down here and just check it out. It's a lovely area, isn't it? I think that's really what my basic aim would be.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be with you again soon. So until next time, see ya.
Thank you.